Flight Sim. Today is part 3 of our navigation series. We're going to be talking about the VOR, which is the VHF Omnidirectional Range Navigational Aid. It is another kind of radio navigation, much like the NDB and ADF. However, the VOR gives you much more information. Now, here's what a typical station looks like. You're going to have a box with a little hexagon in there with a radial around it like this, and next to it will be a blue box which will have the frequency information and the identifier code. The indicator is slightly different now, whereas in the NDB ADF the OBS didn't mean much. Now it means everything in VOR. So today we are going to be looking at how to navigate off the VOR. Now here's my plane situation. I have the OBS dialed into the 360 radial off of the station, and I'm traveling towards the station. So now that I have 360 dialed in, there is a flag on the VOR that has a to or a from the station. So I am traveling towards the station on the same heading, and I'm in the range before I get to the station, so that flag is pointing to. But look at what happens when I fly straight ahead off of that radial. I'll go through this area here, just 90 degrees is sort of the blind spot, and it will switch from to from. And when I'm in from, and I'm now flying away from the station. Also notice that the needle here didn't change as I was flying off the radial to and from the station. Right? In both cases, this said that I was to the left of the radial. So if you want to envision the circle in the center being your plane, and the radial that you've dialed in representing the line off the station, this line off the station, this says that I am to the left of that radial on a to heading from that station. So it stays there because I'm always flying here in my demonstration. I'm always to the left of that radial. Same thing when I go to the right. Look at what happens. Now I'm flying to the right of the radial, right? And I go from to from as I pass that station, right? What you want to do with a VOR is you want to dial in the specific station identification and radial that you want to be flying. So as I get onto the radial, look at what happens to the needle. It goes right to the center. You get much more precise information. And each one of these dots represents approximately 2 degrees off from that radial. So if I'm over here, right, this means I'm 2 degrees to the right of the station. Now if I put the bearing on there, it should show that there I'm at 176, so that's about 4, I guess that's a 4 degree off from the station at my distance. Okay, now I'm lined. Now I'm 4 degrees off here. Now I'm another 2 degrees off. Now I'm another 2 degrees off. So if I'm right in the center, I'm right on that line. If I'm on this line, if I'm on the outside of that circle, I'm at 2 degrees. If I'm on the next dot, I'm at 4 degrees, and so on and so forth until I'm out of range of that radial. When I fly to the station on the radial and I pass the station, you can see it gets a lot more sensitive the closer I'm at. If I pass the station, it will flip to from. Right? So this is very helpful because now I can navigate to the station on a to radial, and I can navigate away from the station on a from radial, and now I don't have to do any kind of corrections to my OBS the way I did with the NDB and ADF. I just dial it into the radial I want. So let's dial it in. If I'm over here, what radial am I on? Let's turn it. And you can see as I get to the radial where I'm actually on, the needle will center. Right? And then if I want to fly to the station, I just turn to that heading. And I'm on a 048 to the station. Or I'm on a 228 radial from the station. But I'm traveling to the station. I'm pointed to the station. So it's showing 048 degrees to the station. And then once I pass the station, it goes from to from. And now I can navigate away from the station on that radial. Right? I can also travel to the station and then navigate away from that station on a different heading. So let's say I want to go to 090. So I'll dial in 090. And here's another trick that I learned. I'm currently navigating at 047. I'm never going to hit that radial line, because I'm not pointed into it. If I want to intercept that radial line, I have to use a heading to this side of the OBS setting. So that means let's dial in 120 to the heading. Whoops, a little too fast there. 120. There we go. And now I'm heading towards that radial. You see that? I'm gonna hit it eventually. So I fly that, and you see the needle comes in. Once I'm about to get to that needle, I turn the plane to 090. And now I'm flying on the radial from the station. So if I have a bunch of stations chained together, I can, navigate from station to station, just going to each station, or I can go to the station from until I intercept another radial, and go to the station to the next station, and from until I get to the airport I want. So there's also, let's say I'm way out here away from the station, and I want to intercept a specific radial. Right? Well, now I need to determine where I'm at in relation to that frequency. So let's say I want to travel away from the station at 090, which I have. I know I need to be traveling into the radial to get to it. So I'm going to dial something like, say, perpendicular to that, due north. And then I fly there, and when I get to the radial, I know I'm going to hit it because the 360 degrees is on the radial side of where I'm at until I hit it. Right? And then I can travel. I'm on the from radial, so if I want to, I could do the same thing. Let's say if I travel to on the from heading, or the to heading, let's flip it around. So that's what 270. Look at that. The 0 degrees is still heading into the needle. I'm going to hit it. Once I'm centered, I can turn to the station. Whoops. At 270. Whoop, there it is. And now I can fly to the station. I can also, just like we did with the NDB, if I have two stations, I can dial to the station on one. I could just, if I want to find out where I'm at and triangulate, I could just dial in the 2 heading. Right? And then I can turn towards the station on the 2 heading there. Fly that, and then I can dial in the second frequency. Let's say this is the second tower, and then I can dial a from that And now I have an interception point, and I know exactly where I'm at. A little sensitive there. So now I know exactly where I am at the map just by looking at where I'm at on 2 radials from a VOR station. Now, on the maps, you're going to see there's a lot of information where on the maps you have interception points, which are defined by 2 radials off of two VOR stations. And you can use those as navigation points, or you can just create your own waypoint out in space, knowing where the 2 radials intersect, and that's your intersection point. Most aircraft have 2 navs, 2 VOR navs, so you can do that. You can have 2 frequencies. Nav 1 and Nav 2 will be 2 VOR frequency stations, which you can do that and get an intersection point. And this becomes really, really important when you're doing IFR navigation, because you may have to do a hold out here somewhere in space, somewhere out here at an intersection point between 2 radials, and you may need to do a hold pattern in that particular intersection. Now there's a variant you're going to see in some aircraft, and it's called an HSI, which stands for your horizontal situation indicator. And really what this is a combination of your heading indicator along with a VOR. It looks like a ADF, but it's really not. If you see this kind of thing, you have the same kind of thing. It's just that instead of a rotating needle from a pivot point, the needle is integrated in and built in. It's the same thing though. I mean, you just read it the same way. You have the needle centered along your set track, and that's how those work. You'll see these on Beechcraft, like the Baron has this, and the Bonanza has something like this. And so you could see that you can either have the original or the old school nav, or you can have the integrated one with your heading and your VOR in one instrument. So it works exactly the same way. So let's look at our flight plan today. We're going to be flying from Lumberton Regional, which is where we stopped last time. And now I'm going to fly to Wilmington International. Now to do that, I'm going to try to use nothing but VOR navigation. I'd still want to avoid this MOA here, the military operations area, this airspace here. And I want to go directly to the, want to avoid that to the north and then turn, and I'm going to head towards the Wilmington VOR, and then I'm going to turn into the airport. And that sets me up for a pretty good 45 degree or straight into this runway, or maybe base to final for this runway, or I can just enter the pattern depending on what the wind's doing. The Wilmington VOR is represented here in this blue box. The frequency is 117.0, and the 3-letter identifier is ILM, and it's also represented just like the NDB in Morse code, so we can put that through the comms and we can identify it. And then what we used for the dead reckoning was this GANS intersection. Now the GANS intersection is defined by the radial, which is 131 degrees from this station, which is the Fayetteville station. It's also represented off of this radial, which looks to be 065 degrees to the Kinston VOR, which is way over here. I can also elect to use the NDB bearing 065 from this Robeson NDB. That might be easier for me actually. I can just fly that bearing until I hit the VOR radial and then go from the station at 131 degrees. At some point I'm going to have to switch from the Fayetteville VOR to the Wilmington VOR, but you see they're the same, they're sort of like sharing that radial. From Wilmington it's a 315 degrees from the station, and from Fayetteville it's 131 from the station. So I can travel, once I get on that radial I can use the 131 from the station, and then from Fayetteville station, and then I can switch to the Wilmington and go the reciprocal of that 131 to the Wilmington. Until I get to Wilmington, then I can turn in to the airport. And it looks like it's going to be about, I want to estimate a 200 radial from the Wilmington station. I can look at that in the flight plan, but we can just dial that in. So if I look at the nav log, I can also get my time, speed, and distance calculations. So there we go. There we go. From the there are my magnetic headings and my supposedly ground speed. Now I didn't put the right altitude in here, but there you go. So this is our flight plan. This is what we're going to do. Let me put the right altitude in here. It's going to be 030, I think is represented better. Let's look at that nav log again. There we go. Okay, so yeah, about 200. It says about 200 degrees from Wilmington VOR to Wilmington. So I was about right. I estimated about 200, and it's giving me 204. So I'm going to want to make a note of this frequency here for Fayetteville VOR, which is 108.8. I'll use the Kingston. I'm going to try to use the Kingston. It might be too far away, but I doubt it. We'll see it. And I'll use the 065 to the Kingston station, and then I'll use the intercept Fayetteville from as my nav 2. And then once I get to that intersection and on the from, I'll dial in the 2 station on the same bearing or same radial to Wilmington. So let's go out to the airport and do our flight. Okay, well, I'm in the airplane. I've done my startup, run up, and taxi to the runway. We seem to be favoring a 05 runway departure from Lumberton today. So that's going to be right along our path to get to Gans intersection. Let's go hop into the plane. And let's straighten up here. Well, I don't seem to be able to dial in the Kingston VOR. It's 109.6. I've got it in, and it's not coming in. If you see this red and white flag on the bottom of the nav here, that means that it is not receiving the signal, which means we are too far away. So in order to get to Gans intersection, I am going to use the the NDB from the station. Let's go to where we are. Okay, so I'm going to be using the Robeson NDB flying at approximately 062, which I've got that dialed in already. And eventually we should be able to pick that up. If not, it's fine. I've got the other Fayetteville station dialed in, which is 108.8. 108.8 into nav 2, and I've got that set to my interception radial, which is 131 degrees. All right, so let's take off. Okay. Lumberton traffic, Cessna 714 Tango Whiskey is taking off runway 05 for northeast departure. No one out there? Okay, good. Got our fuel pump on, good. And let's go. Airspeed's alive. Centerline, here we go. We're going to go to 3,000 feet. So I'm heading out at a 050 rating, so I want to dial that in. And then when it gets to 062, which we're almost there, I'm going to head outbound on that. Whoops. Okay, let's go ahead and turn to 062. Looks like we didn't quite make it. Let's go 050. Okay. And there we go. We're on the approximate bearing from the Robeson NDB station, and that should bring us to the interception point. Now we should see those lakes also, and this time we should be right where we're supposed to be since we're using radio navigation when we get to the Gans intersection. Remember, there's Horseshoe Lake, which should be just straight ahead, maybe to our right, and then that oval lake that we spotted in our dead reckoning should be just off to our left if we do this properly. So let's hope we do this properly. I'm looking to see if the Kinston VOR station comes in, because if we get that, then it's a much more accurate path. So when this radial on the nav2, that's from Fayetteville, when that comes into center, if then I'll know that I have intercepted that radial from Fayetteville, and I can proceed to my turn to 131 degrees. Almost at altitude now. It's a beautiful day for flying. Okay. Let's trim up the plane a little bit. And let's lean it out. A little bit high because it's a little bit bumpy weather today actually. Getting some updrafts. Still not coming in on the nav. I still got the red and white flag there at the bottom, which indicates it's not reading anything. You can see that on the Fayetteville, I've got the 131 and it's indicating a from radio from the station. The arrow is pointing down over here on the right. And I can supplement still what I'm doing with pilotage. So I can look for those, I'm expecting I'm going to hit the intersection right around those lakes. So I keep looking forward for those lakes, which I'm expecting to see. Got the plane trimmed up pretty well. Let's get an outside view. Kind of went off course there a little bit. Successfully avoiding the MOA airspace. MOA. I think that might be my oval lake over there. And it's off to my left, exactly where I expected it to be. Straight ahead, that looks like the Horseshoe Lake. So we should be hitting the intersection very, very soon. And it looks like the Kingston VOR, we're just too far away from it for that VOR to come in, so we probably won't be able to get that cross section with VOR needles. But we will intercept the radio. That's definitely Horseshoe Lake down there, and that's definitely the Oval Lake right there. Alright, I can see the needles starting to move in. Let's check to see where we are in relation on the moving map. I'm a little bit off to the right. The GANS intersection is right here, but that's because I'm navigating off the NDB and not the VOR. So I cut in a little bit. Okay, we're at 2 degrees away. So time to start a gentle turn. Kingston VOR never came in. I'm going to switch. That should be 131. Okay, so I'm now traveling on the from radial from Fayetteville or the 1312 radial to Wilmington. And I'm right on the radial. Now, the good thing also about Nav1, if you're equipped and you have you have the Nav1 tuned in, here you have distance measurement information. So it's gonna, right now I'm about 44.1 nautical miles from Wilmington. And you can see it counting down as I'm getting closer. So I'm getting distance, this is a DME, which will be tied to your Nav1. And I can use that to sort of gauge how much time I have left to get to Wilmington. You can look at the moving map. Sorry, you can see I am pretty much on the radial, maybe a little bit to the right of it according to the map, but according to the needle I'm right on. According to the timing, from Gans to Wilmington, well, you can see all these other intercepts along the way because we're on an airway here, so it's going to give me all of the intercepts along it. So let's see, that would be 16 minus, I want to say 41, I think. So 16 minus 41 is 35, so we should be about 35 minutes. It's going to be inside of that, so I can put the timer on, but it's probably going to be under 31 minutes by the time we get there, because we already started traveling on it. But we'll see, you know. Now, if this needle starts to get off, I just take a small cut towards the needle and get back in. And until it gets back in, then I go back to my heading. So I don't have to be dealing with this OBS knob the way I did with the NDB and ADF. I can just set it to where I need it to be and then navigate off of it. That's the advantage you have. Okay, I'm going to turn this off now. I don't need that anymore. So I'm gonna go see if I can get ATIS from Wilmington. Let's see, Wilmington. ATIS is 124975. Whoops. And we'll hear that when that comes in. Tower frequency is 119.9. Now I don't actually have ATC, so I know I've been kind of doing the call outs for uncontrolled airports, but this airport is a controlled airport. It's a class Delta airspace. So as I get maybe within I want to say 5 miles to Wilmington, I'm going to pretend do a call out, or sort of make the typical calls that I would make. Going about 130 knots on ground speed, so I got a little bit of a tailwind, it looks like. You know what? I'm going to start the timer. Let's see, can I reset the timer? When I get to Yoast, I'm going to set the timer again. Just so I have a known point. Let me bring back up the okay, from Yoast to ILM at 2, so that's going to be 3.1 plus 7.5, so it'll be 10.6 minutes roughly from the Yoast intersection to the VOR. Let's see if that holds. Okay, I'm at Yoast. Let's see if that holds. About 10 minutes or so, so it should be there. We've got about 19.9 nautical miles to go to the station. Let's get back to 3,000. And I'm really expecting that ATIS to come in now, so let me check the frequency. 124975, 124975. Yeah, it should be coming in. I'm not really sure why it's not coming in. Let me check here. So here it says ATIS is 12110. Let me try that.
Wilmington,
there we go.
Information pop-up. 1900 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable. Visibility more than 10. Sky clear. Temperature 23. Dew point 10. Altimeter 2991. Arriving runway 35. Departing runway 35. Advise on initial contact you have pop-up.
35 you said? Let's listen to that one more time. It's Papa, right?
Wilmington INTL information pop-up. 1900 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable. Visibility more than 10. Sky clear. Temperature 23. Dew point 10. Altimeter 2991. Arriving runway 35. Departing runway 35.
35.
Advise on initial contact you have pop-up.
So that means I'm going to have to enter a downwind. So that's going to be a 45 downwind and then enter the pattern.
Wilmington INTL information pop-up. 1900 Zulu weather. Wind light and variable. Visibility more than 10. Sky clear. Temperature 23.
Let's turn that off. Let's get back down to 3,000. So you notice there, I went a little off course on this radial on the 1312. So I turned inside the needle to get back on course, by about maybe 10 to 15 degrees until it gets in, and then I'll continue on. I'll give my call out to the airport when I'm about 5 miles to the northwest of Wilmington VOR. See, I'm now too far from nav 2, so now I've got the flag. Now I cannot use that anymore. Okay. Back on track. Almost there. I think I can see the airport over there. And remember, it was a 206 from on the radio, I believe. When once we pass the station. which we're now getting pretty close. So now I'm going to start descending to pattern altitude. It'll be 1,000 feet above airport, which is 32, so I'm going to descend now to about 1,500. Getting pretty close to the station, it's starting to get more sensitive to the needle. You're not starting to notice. Okay, we're at 5 miles from the station. Wilmington Tower, Cessna 714 Tango Whiskey is about 5 miles northwest of Wilmington VOR, inbound full stop, runway 35. Enter 45, runway 35, report midfield, 714 Tango Whiskey. Okay. Getting very close to the station now. I think that's it down there, actually. I think I could see it. It's going to get very, very sensitive, and once it starts getting very sensitive, you're best just to hold your heading until it goes from a to a from, then you know you've overflown it, which will be very soon. Okay, needle's getting very sensitive now. Wait till it flips from a to a from. Okay, there it goes. It's flipped from a from. Now I want to dial in my away heading, which is 206. I'm going to turn to cut into that by about 30 degrees or so, maybe not quite that much, maybe 15. So I'm going to turn to 220 until I intercept it. Okay, maybe 2.5. There it is. It's coming in. And there it is. There's the airport. Let's get down to pattern altitude. Mixture full rich. And I'm on a perfect 45 for one-way 3.5. Okay. Hmm. Wilmington Tower, Cessna 714 Tango Whiskey is downwind midfield for runway 35. Runway 35, cleared to land, 4 Tango Whiskey. Okay, let's slow up the plane. Let's get into the white arc. Turn base. And we'll park, I guess we'll park right here. Okay, let's get rid of that. And shut down. All right. Well, that's how you navigate with VORs. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Father-Son Flight Simulator. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe, and if you want to be alerted to more videos, just hit that alarm button. And I'll see you next time on Father-Son Flight Simulator. Have a good day.